Hi, I am Sam.
And I'm Max.
And this is Movies Actually, where we give an honest review of the movies we've meddled with so mischievously over at Maybe Movies.
Now, first off, I have to say an apology, because last time I kind of segued into this by saying next time you'll see us in the lee of the tree. I was being a bit poetic. It's the lee of the stone to anyone who knows the film. So, apologies for the mistake, first of all.
The lee of the stone. So, this week we are talking about The Secret of Nimh, the 1982 film based on the novel.
Yeah, the novel's by, if I remember his name rightly, it's Richard C. Bryan, I think it is, or something like that. It was first published in 1970, and as far as I understand it, somebody showed this to Don Bluth, or showed the book to Don Bluth, in the late 70s. And he took it to Disney, and they kind of went, nah.
And they went, nah?
Why
would they go, nah?
I don't know. Apparently at the time, Don Bluth and a number of the other Disney artists were trying to sell them on a more classic sort of Disney Golden Age style of art.
And this does call in mind Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, all of the classic Don Bluths that he worked at Disney with.
Exactly. And they said no, so they left and set up their own studio called Don Bluth Productions and made this. Apparently, the first few months of the making of this was all filmed in his garage.
His garage?
Until they could afford to get proper office space to work from.
That's a brave man. I don't know how to express that further, but there you go. Here we go. The Secret of Nimh. This is one of those movies. I remember when it came out. I remember the book being available on the middle school book club that we had at the time, and I couldn't afford the book. And we never quite got around to watching the film when I was a kid, even though I so desperately wanted to watch it. I didn't actually see this film until I was nearly 30, and the same is true of the book. I learned a lot. That's a great adaptation, things like that. But I missed that childish joy that you get the first time you watch a cartoon. I missed that, and although I tried to catch up later on, it just wasn't quite the same. How do you feel about it?
Kind of the polar opposite, really. My brother got this, as you said, it was on the middle school reading list, or book club that you could get.
That's the one, yeah.
And my brother bought this, and as far as I know, he's still got his copy. And when he was feeling in a good mood, he let me borrow it. I think I was about 9, maybe. And it was fantastic. I remember reading it at least 2, maybe 3 times while I was at middle school. And again, same with any kind of book. I think it was one of those first books that I revisited and got that notion that sometimes when you read a book, when you come back to it, you take away something different from it each time you read it.
Yeah.
It was also interesting because this would have been the first book that I couldn't wait to see the movie adaptation of. Or when I knew there was a movie adaptation had been done, it was the first time, even as a kid, that I was like, I wanted to see what the difference was between the two.
Ah, right. I mean, I had the same feeling, but I actually experienced it the other way round. So I knew about the film, and then the book came out, and I was like, oh, that's the book of the film. I want to read that. And I could never afford to buy the book. And then, just for whatever reason, although we went to the video store every week when I was that age, we never got round to hiring that movie. I think maybe by the time it came out, my brother was too old to appreciate it as a child.
So you couldn't kind of get it for him, and then you could
by
watch
that
it.
age, I was far too interested in all of the horror movies I could watch. I had other movies to hire. I just never got quite round to it, and so I missed it. First time round.
That's crazy.
Well, that's life.
It is absolutely. Yeah, so this is The Secret of Nimh, which is the film adaptation of the book Mrs. Frisby and the Rats of Nimh. In the film, they had to change the main character's name to Mrs. Brisby because, basically because Frisby spat their dummy out and didn't want them using the name, even though How is this putting Frisbee in a bad light?
I don't understand either. This does not make sense to me, but apparently this is the history. There you go. You learned a thing.
Yeah. But yes, but the story itself, very generally, Mrs. Brisby, as we're talking about the film, is a field mouse with 4 young children and is a recent widow and has to go through a series of adventures to not only discover her own worth, but also to protect her family.
Indeed, yeah. And the rats of Nimh guide her along that path, I think is...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're not going to tell you what the secret of Nimh is, because that would just be wrong.
No, we don't want you to know the end. You have to watch it. Watch it. Learn. Experience new things. It's all good.
But it is, as you were saying earlier, it is a wonderful example of Don Bluth's artwork, and obviously his entire team of the team that left Disney to go and make this. All of the animation in it, a lot of the backdrops and that, they're all full paintings, full animated paintings.
Beautiful backdrops. When I watched this film, I was so convinced that Don Bluth was responsible for the mice from Cinderella that we had quite an extensive argument about this before this video began.
Yeah.
Turns out he actually animated the mice in Sleeping Beauty, not Cinderella. But I swear to you, if you go back and look at shots of the mice constructing Cinderella's dress in the original Disney movie and compare it to the way the mice move in this movie, they're almost identical. I swear to God. Even though he doesn't have a credit on the movie, I can't believe it. They must have been his apprentices or something.
Exactly, yeah, it's Disney, isn't it? They weren't good enough to get credited at the time.
Anyway, this... It's a great little movie. If you want something to sit down with the kids and have no worries about anything being too extreme.
It's a good lesson, an object lesson, or rather an object exercise, should I say, in encouraging the face of adversity, in being true to yourself. Yep. What's lovely about this, and again, as we said at the start, this was made in 1982. You've got your protagonist is a strong female character that is allowed to remain feminine.
That's very true. Yes, that is very true.
She's a mother, she's a widow, and then she has to rise to the challenge, and there's no agenda.
There's no doubt to her femininity, and there's no agenda attached to it. Yeah, no, that's completely true. If you want to look for a strong female figure for your children, this is a good place to start. Absolutely.
Again, the voice acting for this is fantastic. I mean, again, a bit like when we did Watership Down. A great cast of actors. You've got John Carradine Sr. in there. You've got Derek Jacobi, which... Even Derek Jacobi, normally you can spot Derek Jacobi. He's got one of those voices that you can tell it's him. There's only a few moments with Nicodemus that you can actually go, yes, that is.
Oh, no, he really inhabits the character when he does it. Yeah.
And of course, Dom DeLuise as Jeremy.
Yes. Now, when you said earlier that Dom DeLuise indulged too much in his stage character?
I think it was generally at the time, a lot of the critics thought that he was given too much license to be himself.
Yes, I can see that. I can see that. I mean, the woo 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 and all of those silly little bits. I can see that. That's just Dom DeLuise going a little bit nuts in the recording booth.
Yes, yeah. I think it's... sorry, I do apologise for this, because I think this is about the only thing that I've ever seen... Peter Strauss is in this as well. I didn't know that. It's Elizabeth Hartman, I believe, is Mrs. Brisby.
Oh, okay.
Who I did look up before and did have quite a long career, but this is about the only thing that I know her from.
I know her voice, but I can't place where I've seen her. I just know her voice very intimately. So I think I must have seen one of the TV shows or something she was introduced in.
Yes, yeah. But again, it is a wonderful fairy tale story that employs both mystical and kind of scientific elements.
Yes, let's not ignore the fact that in this movie, science is magic. Even at the very beginning, when Nicodemus is literally just dipping his pen in ink and writing down on the page of what he thinks is happening, it comes out as a little swirly twinkly, and it glows and tinkles, and the writing glows until the ink is set and stuff like that.
Technically, his pen never actually touches the page.
Apparently, science is magic in this movie.
Which kind of works, because again, they're animals, so maybe, even the animals that know what they're doing, it must feel... But certainly, because so much of the film is told from Mrs. Brisley's point of view, I've always taken it as that's how it appears to her. To her, it's all magic. And so we see it through her lens.
I don't know. It just always struck me as a little bit of a simplistic answer to things.
More a thing in the film than it is in the book.
Yeah.
From what I remember.
So, seriously, if you're an adult wondering if you can show this movie to your kids, yeah, absolutely. They're going to love it. There is mild peril, but there is no real danger. And your kids will learn a life lesson. So, if you want to entertain your kids for an afternoon, this is a good choice to start with.
It's there's a couple of weird associations, but for me, I've always found it to be a wonderful Christmas film. It's not set at Christmas. It can't be, because it's where it's set. It's supposed to be springtime.
I'm going to say, I really? How? Go and tell me, how is it a Christmas film?
There's something wholesome about it that I signify with Christmas.
Wholesome, yes. I still don't get the Christmas there.
It just gives me the same feels as Christmas does.
Okay.
But then again, equally, you could say it could be an Easter film because it's set in spring.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, if you want to play those games, yeah, we could do that. So there you go, folks. It's a pretty good movie. It's a very entertaining and very well put together film.
Although I do really want somebody to take the final bit with the cinder block and just replace it with an X-Wing.
Show it to us, please.
That would be awesome.
Okay, guys. So, a thumbs up, but especially for you folks who have young kids, it's a good movie, and it's a classic example of Don Bluth's best work.
Yes. Interestingly enough, it's had a bit more, for the adults watching this, it's had a little bit of a resurgence, I think, recently, because they include and reference it in the Netflix show Archive 81, which is a fantastic show in itself, but they do reference this in there.
You paid more attention than I do. Way more attention than I do.
Yeah, they talk about it. They mention, I think it's one of the main characters, she mentions that it's her favourite childhood film.
Well, it deserves the love.
It certainly does. We will be back next month when we go all 21st century.
Well, 21st century / early 20th century. The colour was not written.
I'm talking about the film.
The film.
If you're talking about the movies, then... But yes, you're right, yes. But yes, we will be back. We haven't decided which one. Which one do you want to do?
What is it? I want to start with The Witch.
Start with The Witch?
Yeah, we'll start with The Witch.
That's the way you should always go. You should always start with The Witch.
It's the best way to go. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for listening to us. Hope you enjoyed what we had to say. And as always, take care of yourselves, guys. TTFN.
I'm going to go and take the butter out of the fridge. And we'll see you next month.
Why? Why?
Do you not like the taste of butter?
See you next time, guys.
Bye-bye.